Merry Christmas and welcome to Gordy's Magical Advent Calendar podcast, where each day in December until Christmas, we will be sharing our stories with you. You may know Gordy from his travels around the world, but it is the 1st of December now, which means that Christmas season is in full swing. Gordy and the other elves were all in their Christmas uniforms gathered outside of Santa's workshop. Santa himself stood on the balcony and smiled down at the elves.
Ho, ho, ho!
Santa explained that this year there would be an advent calendar given to the elf that found the most perfect Christmas tree to decorate the town square. Excitement filled the entire square as the elves murmured amongst themselves. Gordy strapped on his candy cane skis and was on his way to the Christmas tree forest. Zipping down the slopes, Gordy could see the shining stars atop the Christmas trees in the forest. He had heard about the trees' beautiful ornaments that could give you a little bit of magic. As he went up a small hill, Gordy flew into the air and could see the whole forest.
Woohoo! This is awesome!
There were beautiful green trees and Christmas lights all over. One in particular caught his eye, a large tree with glowing blue lights. To its side was something strange, a large black block of fur. Wait, what could that be? Before Gordy could tell what the creature was, he landed in a pile of snow with a thump. Oh well. Gordy happily went into the sparkling wonderland. He finally found that glowing blue tree he was looking for in the center of the forest. The blue glow came from the shimmering icicle ornaments that decorated the tree. He rushed over, but before he could get there, a massive black paw slammed down in front of him. Gordy jumped back and looked up. Above him stood the Yule cat, a black cat that was as tall as the tallest tree in the forest, and was also very cranky. Gordy explained that he needed to take this tree back to Santa, but the Yule cat would not listen. He claimed that all the trees in the forest were his scratching posts, and he hated sharing. Trying to convince the cat, Gordy promised him a magical scratching post from Santa instead. And the Yule cat would still have all of the other trees in the forest. The Yule cat didn't believe Gordy and told him to go away. And then, with a whip of his mighty furry tail, he swatted at Gordy. Gordy dived headfirst into a pile of snow next to him. Giving up wasn't an option, so Gordy would have to try something else. He leapt up and waved his hands over his head.
I'm over here!
The cat spun around and swung his tail straight at Gordy. Gordy was ready, though.
1, 2, 3!
Gordy jumped and landed perfectly on top of the cat's tail. He stood up like he was on a snowboard and then hopped off the tail onto the Christmas tree. He grabbed one of the shining icicle ornaments and put it around his neck like a necklace. He sure hoped these ornaments were magic like the legends said, because the Yule cat was charging straight at him. Then he noticed that his breath tasted minty fresh. The magic of the ornament must have something to do with that. The cat swished his tail at the tree, and Gordy breathed out a heavy sigh. An icy mist swept over the entire forest. When the mist cleared, the Yule cat was frozen in a solid block of ice. The cat blinked twice at him from the block of ice, and now was in a much more chatty mood. They agreed that if the cat helped Gordy, then Gordy would get the cat a magical scratching post, just like he promised. He used his magic ornament to unfreeze the Yule cat, and then they were off. When Gordy and the gigantic cat arrived in town, some of the elves were scared, but Gordy assured them that this was his new friend. They popped the tree up, and Gordy could see that others had fetched trees too, but none sparkled like his did with those magical ornaments. It was no surprise when Santa picked Gordy's tree, and for his prize, Gordy received a magical advent calendar. Santa also made good on Gordy's promise to the Yule cat. The cat was satisfied and headed back home. Gordy, curious about the advent calendar, opened the small door that had December 1st on it. To his surprise, it had a picture of the Yule cat and the tree on it. Gordy looked over to Santa, who gave him a cheeky wink and said,
Ho, ho, ho!
And that was Gordy's first adventure with his magical advent calendar. If you want to see and hear more about Gordy, check him out on YouTube. Also tune in tomorrow for Gordy's next magical advent calendar adventure. Welcome back to Gordy's Magical Advent Calendar podcast. After finding the perfect Christmas tree for the town square, Gordy received a special gift from Santa, a magical advent calendar. Now, it's day 2 and time for Gordy to open the next door and see what awaits him. Gordy's eyes sparkled with curiosity as the number 2 on the calendar began to glow. He opened it, and Santa's voice echoed through his room.
Ho, ho, ho! Ready for your next adventure? The toy factory's ribbon-making machine went absolutely crazy. It's tangled up the entire workshop in a giant knot. We need a new toy factory, and fast.
Gordy's heart leaped with excitement. Ever since he was a tiny elf, Gordy had dreamed of designing the perfect toy factory. And now, his dream was coming true.
Thanks, Santa. I know exactly what to do.
Gordy headed out to Santa's village, and as he walked, he noticed a slight change in the air. The wind was starting to pick up. When Gordy arrived at the town square, he quickly gathered the best builder elves in all the land. Gordy pulled out a giant blueprint he had sketched on the way, unfurling it with a dramatic swoosh.
All right, team, here's the plan. We're going to build the coolest, grandest, most awesomest toy factory the North Pole has ever seen.
They were all excited to get to work. They needed to gather the warm, magical gingerbread from the famous gingerbread mine. This gingerbread was special, radiating the warmth of the warmest hot cocoa and strong enough to withstand even the chilliest North Pole winter. Gordy had heard stories of this mine from his mother. She once used that gingerbread to build a magical gingerbread sleigh. That memory filled his heart with joy, and he couldn't wait to get started. The elves arrived at the gingerbread mine and got to work. They carefully carved out massive slabs of gingerbread, and soon they had more gingerbread than they could carry. So how would they carry this massive chunk of dough back to the construction site? Gordy tapped his chin thoughtfully, trying to ignore the slight chill coming from the gusting wind and focus on the problem at hand. Then he remembered. His mother's magical gingerbread sleigh! It was strong and perfect for hauling gingerbread.
I know just the thing.
Gordy filled his lungs and let out a loud, high-pitched whistle, like a magical calling sign. The magical gingerbread sleigh appeared, sliding and skipping towards the mine at incredible speed.
Let's load it up and get this gingerbread back to the village.
With the gingerbread piled high on the sleigh, the elves sped back to the construction site. But as they arrived, Gordy noticed something troubling. The sky had darkened and the wind was picking up more rapidly. He glanced around, feeling the cold bite of the air.
We've got to start building, now!
The elves sprang into action, raising gingerbread walls, spreading frosting, and placing candy cane beams to support the roof. Just as they were getting into the groove, a gust of wind blew through the site, and a large stack of gingerbread bricks toppled over, crashing to the ground.
Oh no! We can't let this blizzard ruin our factory. Extra elf power! power, friends!
The elves started working even harder. Gingerbread walls flew into place, frosting swirled like snowflakes. The factory was nearly complete, just one more thing to do. The roof! Gordy rushed to grab a nearby ladder, but a fierce gust of wind whipped it away, sending it into the snowstorm. Gordy's heart skipped a beat. The blizzard was almost there. He could hardly see past the construction site. His mind raced, and just as he started to panic, his eyes landed on his candy cane skis. Suddenly, he had the most brilliant of brilliant ideas, and his eyes lit up like Christmas lights.
Of course! My candy cane skis!
He grabbed his candy cane skis and, using them as makeshift climbing hooks, jammed them into the gingerbread wall. The climb was crunchy and tough. Every step took all of Gordy's strength as the wind tried to knock him back down. He reached the top and looked down at the roof below. There wasn't time to carefully spread the icing. Gordy cut open an icing packet and tossed it across the roof, immediately closing his eyes and wishing for the best. The packet skidded along the edge, spreading on the cracks between roof and wall, just in time. Gordy and his friends began to celebrate, but a howling blast of wind reminded them of the storm. They dashed inside the gingerbread factory just in time, struggling to shut the doors against the fierce wind. The storm raged outside, but inside the gingerbread factory, it was warm and safe. Slowly, the blizzard began to die down. The elves peeked outside, and the factory was still standing strong. Gordy beamed with pride. He had completed his task, and now the elves had a brand new factory. If you want to see and hear more about Gordy, check him out on YouTube. Also, tune in tomorrow for Gordy's next magical advent calendar adventure. Until then, remember to spread Christmas cheer and maybe try building your own gingerbread house at home. Welcome back to Gordy's Magical Advent Calendar podcast. It is December 3rd, which means another adventure with Gordy. Last time, Gordy built a toy factory for Santa in a blizzard. Let's see what the Magical Advent Calendar has in store today. Gordy heard the magic sound of the Advent Calendar and saw the number 3 glow.
Ho, ho, ho! Hello, Gordy! The snow monsters seem to be whipping up quite the storm in the icy tundra. I wonder if they caused that blizzard at the toy factory yesterday. Would you mind going to see why they're in such a grump? The snow monsters are very proud, so you will have to impress them somehow. Good luck.
Gordy quickly looked around the room and thought of what he could bring to help him.
That's it!
He saw the icicle ornament from the Christmas tree forest. If he wore the ornament, it gave him magical frosty breath. That was sure to impress the snow monsters. He was ready to go. As Gordy left the warmth of the town, he tried not to think about how he had never been this far north and how the air was seeming to get colder and colder. Up ahead, the sky was a dark gray that he knew all too well. There was a blizzard brewing. He would have to hurry. He dashed off towards the huge storm. He approached the gusty, dark clouds that were now right in front of him.
I have to do this. Santa is counting on it.
Speeding into the storm, Gordy could still hear and feel the blizzard. But then the wind stopped. He was in the middle of a sunny day with a snowy landscape all around him. Out of nowhere, a few small snow hills started to move.
Wait, those aren't hills. It's the snow monsters. Hi, snow monsters.
They must have stood at least as tall as Gordy's house. They were giants. The chief snow monster approached Gordy with heavy steps. The chief was giant, with a great white beard and cold blue eyes. As they got closer to Gordy, Gordy tried to remain calm. The chief spoke with a voice that shook like an avalanche.
What have we here? Is that a little elf?
Hi, my name is Gordy. Did you happen to make a blizzard that almost destroyed Santa's new toy factory?
The chief laughed coldly. They hadn't made any blizzards recently. They'd all been in hibernation, until Gordy just woke them up. They couldn't have done it. Gordy tried to figure out what was going on. But then, the snow monsters challenged him to a snowball fight. Before Gordy could argue, they explained the rules. If Gordy won, then they would help him find out where the blizzard came from. If he lost, then he had to leave and never come back. Not seeing any other choice, Gordy started to make snowballs. They had split the snowy field into two halves. Gordy was on one end with a dozen small snowballs, but the snow monsters had hundreds of huge snowballs.
Oh, candy canes!
How was Gordy going to get himself out of this?
First one to get their opponent with a snowball wins. 3, 2, 1, go!
Suddenly, a massive boulder of a snowball came crashing down towards Gordy. He rolled away and slid in the snow. He was now on the other side of the field from his small pile of snowballs.
I've got to get over to them!
Ducking away from more snowballs, Gordy's hands came up to his icicle ornament necklace, and he had an idea. He could use the ice magic. Gordy ran and jumped while breathing out. A magnificent slide of ice formed where Gordy breathed, and he slid along it over the snowball field. The snow monsters all stared up at him in wonder. Gordy made the ice slide go into a spiral, and then he sped down it towards his snowballs. He quickly grabbed one, and then darted off again. Gordy slid around and aimed his snowball. He then heard a loud snore.
What's that?
Looking towards the snoring, he saw that one snow monster was still asleep on the edge of the field. As they snored, dark clouds floated above their heads.
That must be what's causing the blizzards! Snow monster snores! Time out!
The snow monsters all gave Gordy a funny look. Then he pointed at their friend.
Look!
The snow monsters looked between their sleeping friend and Gordy. Then all began to laugh. It all made sense now. The chief called off the snowball fight and said that Gordy had impressed them with his courage.
Thank you! It was fun!
The chief promised they'd try to snore a little less to help out the North Pole. They also told Gordy he was welcome to have a snowball fight with them anytime he wanted. As Gordy got ready to head back to Santa's village, he was happy he had made new friends and solved the blizzard issue. If you want to see and hear more about Gordy, check him out on YouTube. Also, tune in tomorrow for Gordy's next magical advent calendar adventure. Welcome back to Gordy's Magical Advent Calendar podcast. It's December 4th, and it's time for another exciting adventure with Gordy. Yesterday, our fearless elf discovered that the snow monster's extra loud snoring was causing blizzards. Let's see what the magical advent calendar has in store for Gordy today. Gordy had just finished making himself a yummy cup of hot cocoa when his magical advent calendar chimed its now familiar chime. The number 4 glowed bright, lighting up Gordy's gingerbread house. He opened the small door with the number 4.
Hey, Santa! Merry December 4th!
Ho, ho, ho! Hello, my dear Gordy. Today, I have a very important task for you. One of my youngest reindeer, Cinnamon, has gone missing. She was last seen roaming the town in search of a snack. Please help me find her before it gets dark.
Gordy knew he had no time to waste. He grabbed his trusty candy cane skis, poured his hot cocoa into a thermos, and rushed out the door, ready to rescue the lost reindeer. Gordy was soon leaving Santa's village and headed into the sweetest, softest area of the North Pole, the Marshmallow Meadows. He knew reindeers love to snack on marshmallows, so it was the perfect place to start looking for clues. This delicious field of white bouncy ground was every young elf's dream, so Gordy couldn't help but jump a big jump into a large marshmallow mound. He was immediately thrown high up, flying into the air like he was an astronaut on the moon. Hopping from marshmallow to marshmallow, Gordy was having a blast crossing the meadow, hopping and twirling in the air with great skill, until a huge dip in one of the marshmallows made Gordy lose his footing and crash down. As Gordy got back up, he wondered what could have caused this massive dip. Wait! Looking closer, Gordy could tell it was shaped like a reindeer bite.
Another clue!
Cinnamon had to be close by. Gordy charged ahead, bouncing his way out of the marshmallow meadow and into the icy surface of the shiny ice field. As Gordy stepped onto the ice, he looked down and saw that instead of water, there was something sparkly underneath. It was a glitter lake. The ice on top was also made of glitter, and everything sparkled like a shimmering disco ball.
Wow, this is beautiful!
Mesmerized by the sparkles, Gordy almost didn't notice the small animal in the middle of the ice field. It was Cinnamon! Gordy could hear her calling out to him, but the young reindeer didn't seem to be able to move. What was going on?
Don't worry, Cinnamon. I'm coming to get you!
As Gordy took a confident step forward, the sparkly ice began to crack under his small elf feet. He was startled but repositioned and tried again, determined to reach Cinnamon. But the ice cracked again, and Gordy had to take a step back. How would he reach Cinnamon? Gordy steadied himself and tried to think. If he couldn't walk there, could he maybe dance? Gordy started by sliding his feet across, and the ice didn't seem to crack. He slid again, shaking his little elf tushy as he went. The ice stayed put!
It's working!
Gordy continued to shimmy and shuffle, inching his way towards Cinnamon. The ice was thin, but Gordy was keeping the pressure even on his feet until he finally reached her. He gave the young reindeer a big tight hug, and she neighed with joy.
Now let's get you back home!
But Gordy looked closer and saw that Cinnamon's hoof was stuck on a crack in the ice. That's why she wasn't moving! Oh no! How would Gordy get her unstuck without hurting her or risking breaking the ice? Gordy wished he had brought a bigger jacket or antler warmers or maybe even... Gordy reached into his pocket and pulled out the hot cocoa thermos he had set aside earlier in the day.
This could thaw the ice and set Cinnamon free.
As he poured the hot beverage on the ice, making sure to avoid Cinnamon's hoof, her leg began to wiggle free until the area was fully melted and she could move. Gordy began to dance his way out of the field, but Cinnamon grabbed Gordy's sleeve and pulled him towards her. She signaled him to hop onto her back, and Gordy's eyes immediately lit up. He climbed onto Cinnamon's back, and she lifted them into the night sky, soaring over the snowy landscape.
Whoa!
This was Gordy's very first time flying on a reindeer, and he couldn't contain his excitement. The shiny ice field looked ever more magical from up above, and the marshmallow meadow looked like fluffy clouds. Cinnamon was a fast flyer, and soon they were back at Santa's village, safe and sound. Gordy was proud of himself and so happy to see Cinnamon reunited with her friends. If you want to see and hear more about Gordy, check him out on YouTube. Also, tune in tomorrow for Gordy's next magical Advent calendar adventure. Welcome back to Gordy's Magical Advent Calendar podcast. It is December 5th, which means another adventure with Gordy. Last time, Gordy found a missing reindeer. Let's see what the Magical Advent Calendar has in store next. Today was the annual ice skating race. every year, the elves compete to win a magical pair of ice skates made by Santa himself. Gordy was about to leave when he heard the familiar magic of his advent calendar. As the 5 began to glow, Gordy excitedly hopped and clapped.
Ho, ho, ho! Hello, Gordy! I hope you're ready for the big race today. I was up all night tinkering with the prize ice skates, but they shot off in a trail of sprinkles. Could you find them for me before the race, please?
Of course, Santa.
I didn't get the chance to finish the enchantment, so if someone is wearing them and not feeling the holiday spirit, they won't be able to control them.
With that, Santa's voice faded away. Gordy needed to follow the trail of sprinkles. He grabbed his skis and rushed out. Gordy had almost reached Santa's workshop when something tickled his nose.
Oh my! Achoo!
Gordy put his finger to his nose and saw that there were green sprinkles on them.
Oh, sprinkles! The skates must be nearby.
He saw a small flurry of green and red shimmering in the distance, just off to the side of the workshop. Gordy hurried off after them towards the icy tundra on his candy cane skis. Following the sprinkle flurries into the tundra, it soon opened up into a snowy landscape. Everything was normal, except Gordy saw a huge cloud of green and red sprinkles that looked like a sparkly tornado. He could hear a deep roar coming from the center of the cloud. Gordy remembered what Santa had said. If the wearer was not in the holiday spirit, the skates would be uncontrollable. Gordy just needed to talk to whoever was wearing the ice skates. He approached the edge of the sprinkle cloud.
Oh, yummy sprinkles!
Gordy munched his way through the cloud. Inside the sprinkle cloud, there was a polar bear wearing the skates. She had a panicked look on her face and was spinning around as sprinkles flew out the back of the skates. Gordy got closer to the polar bear.
Hi, I'm Gordy.
My name is Polly.
Gordy told her that the ice skates would only work if you felt the holiday spirit. Gordy could help with a Christmas carol. Polly stopped spinning for a second, but then the ice skates rocketed to life again, launching her straight at Gordy. Gordy tried to jump out of the way, but his shirt got caught on Polly's claw. They were now spinning wildly around. Gordy stopped whistling the Christmas carol and asked Polly why she wasn't feeling the holiday spirit. She then said that she had always wanted to be in the great ice skating race, but was never invited. No polar bear had ever been invited. Then Gordy had a great idea.
Why don't you be my skating partner?
Really?
Of course.
A smile spread across Polly's face and she slowly stopped spinning. Gordy unhooked himself from her claw. Now, feeling the holiday spirit, she was ice skating in perfectly straight lines. She skated past Gordy and then around him and offered her paw. Gordy grabbed it and they zoomed off together towards Santa's village. As they got closer, Gordy asked Polly to slow down, and that's when they realized that they couldn't. They were heading straight towards Santa's workshop. Gordy had to think quickly before they crashed.
Head straight for that big tree.
The polar bear wasn't so sure, but they didn't have time for questions. She did as Gordy said, and they launched straight towards a tree. As they reached the bottom of the tree, the ice skates shot them straight up the trunk with a magical boost. As they zipped up the tree, Gordy held his hand out and grabbed onto a branch. They were now hanging from the branch and the ice skates stopped moving. Polly managed to kick them off, and they landed in a pile of snow below. Gordy could see them already sparking to life again, so he dropped quickly into the pile of snow too.
Got you.
Gordy grabbed the skates before they could shoot off and then took them back to Santa. Santa managed to fix them just in time for the start of the race. Polly was happy to help, but was sad she didn't have ice skates.
I guess I wasn't meant to compete anyways.
Santa said that everyone could compete in the race. He just never realized polar bears would want to join. He pulled out a new pair of skates for her. Then they made their way to the race. It was the first time a polar bear ever competed. Although Gordy and Polly didn't win, they still had a great time, and Polly got a special award for learning how to ice skate so quickly. If you want to see and hear more about Gordy, check him out on YouTube. Also, tune in tomorrow for Gordy's next magical advent calendar adventure. Welcome back to Gordy's Magical Advent Calendar podcast. It is December 6th, which means another adventure with Gordy. Yesterday, Gordy helped a polar bear ice skate. Let's see what the Magical Advent Calendar has in store for Gordy today. Gordy eagerly walked over to his magical advent calendar. He knew that the message from Santa would come through soon, and then he'd be off on another adventure. Gordy opened the door with the number 6, and Santa's voice filled the room.
Ho, ho, ho! Hello, Gordy! Tomorrow is the great sleigh race, but the lanterns from my sleigh have gone missing. We were flying over the whimsical meadow, and they must have fallen off. But I didn't notice until I was home. Please use this map I drew up to find them.
Santa's voice faded away, and a rolled-up map shot out of the calendar door. Gordy excitedly caught it and unrolled the paper. One part of the map glowed. Gordy looked closer. It was the whimsical meadow. Santa's voice started to play from the glowing map.
The whimsical meadow will enchant any item there with magical whimsy. They'll start to dance, and if you're not careful, you'll start to dance too.
Gordy loved dancing. This should be fun. Following the map, he zipped along on his candy cane skis. Gordy looked ahead and saw that there was a brightly colored meadow before him. Even though they were in the North Pole, there were flowers of all sorts growing everywhere. They seemed to sway back and forth with the wind.
Sweet candy canes! Those flowers aren't swaying, they're dancing! This must be the whimsical meadow, and that must be the whimsy!
Gordy couldn't help but join in the dancing too.
This is so much fun!
He grooved through the meadow and shuffled along. As Gordy got further into the groove, a thought lingered in the back of his mind. He was here for something. What was it again? It couldn't be that important. Dancing was so much fun, and the melody of the flowers sounded so nice.
Santa would love it here! Wait, Santa! I need to find the lanterns!
Gordy snapped out of the enchantment and noticed it was almost nighttime. How long had he been dancing? He needed to find the lanterns soon. Looking around, he tried to see if there was anything there besides flowers. In the distance, he thought he saw a little light, but then it disappeared. Gordy ran after it. Getting closer, Gordy could see that the light was 2 small golden lanterns. They must have been the lanterns for Santa's sleigh. But they were moving as if they were alive? As Gordy got closer, they skipped away from him. One going to the right and one going to the left. Gordy made a quick decision and went right.
Wait for me!
But the lantern wouldn't listen to him. It even hopped quicker. The way it moved was playful, jolly even. The lanterns were playing a game with him. Gordy loved games, but he could never catch up to the magical lanterns on foot. Luckily, he had candy cane skis. On his skis, Gordy was much quicker. He raced along after the first lantern and eventually caught up. Holding out his hand, Gordy just about managed to tag the lantern.
You're it! Come and catch me!
Gordy turned around and went back the way they came. Up ahead, he could see the other lantern hiding behind a dancing tree. The lantern started to hop away, but Gordy easily caught up to it now. As the other lantern came into view, Gordy held up his hands for a timeout.
Santa needs you to come back to his sleigh. He can't deliver gifts without you.
That seemed to remind them that they couldn't stay here. They nodded in agreement. But before they left, they all had one last Christmas carol boogie. Gordy returned the lanterns back to Santa, and Santa thanked him. Now the sleigh was even more jolly, and they were ready for the great sleigh race. If you want to see and hear more about Gordy, check him out on YouTube. Also, tune in tomorrow for Gordy's next magical Advent calendar adventure. Welcome back to Gordy's Magical Advent Calendar podcast. It's December 7th, and it's time for another elf-tastic adventure through the North Pole. After helping Santa fix his sleigh, Gordy is excited for his next holly jolly task. What could it be? It was the day of the North Pole's great sleigh race, and so Gordy was betting his new mission would have something to do with that. Like clockwork, the calendar chimed and Gordy opened the small door with the number 7, beaming as he listened to Santa's message.
Ho, ho, ho! Hello, Gordy! Merry Sleigh Race Day! I hope you are ready to compete, because there have been rumors that someone might try to cheat, and I need you to stop them.
Santa's voice faded away as quickly as it appeared. Just then, Gordy heard the trumpets outside, announcing the beginning of the race preparations. Gordy needed to hurry, so he dashed to his sleigh garage and grabbed his gingerbread sleigh.
There you are!
Pulling the sleigh behind him, Gordy arrived at the town center, where all different types of magical creatures were making the final tweaks on their sleighs. Who could be the one trying to cheat, though? Some tundra wolves polished their shiny metal sleigh, while a couple of aurora bears removed splinters from their wooden one. A snow monster, who of course had a snow sleigh, was having trouble fitting into the driver's seat. He was way too big. Then Gordy saw the ice fairies.
Wow!
They had the prettiest, most sparkling sleighs Gordy had ever seen. It was hard to tell since there were so many of them gathered, but it almost looked like one of the sleighs was hovering above the ground, like it was flying. Gordy knew that was against the sleigh race rules, but he needed to be sure before telling Santa. He decided to approach the suspicious ice fairy.
Wow, that's a beautiful sleigh. What is it made of?
Her name was Flurry, and she quickly sat on her sleigh, forcing it to stop hovering and touch the ground. Now Gordy was sure she was hiding something. Flurry tried to act natural and said the sleigh was made of the ice glitter from the shiny ice field, but Gordy could see her struggling to keep it from floating.
The Great Sleigh Race is starting. Place your sleighs at the start line and get ready.
Everyone rushed to the track, including Flurry and the other ice fairies, leaving Gordy alone in the prep area. He knew he needed to stop Flurry from breaking the rules, but how? The race started and Gordy jumped on his sleigh and sped off, going as fast as he could to keep up with Flurry. As they went down the racetrack, the Aurora Bears were taking the lead, but the Tinsel Trolls were close behind, trying to pass them. Gordy watched as everyone took a right turn, but Flurry paused for a moment and skidded left, riding away from the track. What was she up to?
I need to follow her.
Gordy followed, turning left and slowing down, trying to keep hidden. He watched as Flurry hopped off her sleigh, grabbed a small bag from her pocket, and opened it, hiding behind a thick bush. Gordy could see it was fairy dust. Of course! Flurry was using fairy dust to make her sleigh fly.
Hey, that's against the rules.
Gordy stepped out from behind the bush to confront Flurry, but she was fast and hopped into her sleigh to drive off. Gordy followed, pushing his gingerbread sleigh as fast as possible. He couldn't let her get away. They continued down the side path until Flurry started to merge back into the racetrack. Gordy could see her reaching into her bag, but just as she pulled out a handful of fairy dust, she hit a small bump and accidentally dropped the entire bag onto her sleigh. Gordy rushed after her, but her sleigh was now out of control. She spiraled upwards into the air and, scared, let go of her flying sleigh. Everyone stopped racing and watched as she dropped from the sky, headed straight down. Gordy had to think fast, so he stepped out of his own sleigh and pushed it forward with all his might. The crowd watched in fear, worried for the little fairy. But Gordy had timed it just right, and Flurry fell right onto the sleigh's gumdrop cushions. She was safe! As Flurry got up and thanked Gordy, a little embarrassed, one of the snow monsters rushed past, distracted and not noticing the incident. Gordy and Flurry watched as the snow monster, squished into his sleigh, beamed with joy crossing the finish line. The snow monster was so excited and so grateful for Gordy's help, he gave him a big monster hug. Gordy giggled and hugged him back. He was so happy to have saved Flurry and helped keep the competition fair for everyone. If you want to see and hear more about Gordy, check him out on YouTube. Also, tune in tomorrow for Gordy's next magical Advent Calendar adventure. Welcome back to Gordy's Magical Advent Calendar podcast. It is December 8th, which means another adventure with Gordy. Last time, Gordy saved the day at the sleigh race. Let's see what the magical Advent Calendar has in store today. Gordy heard the magic of the Advent Calendar and saw the 8 light up. He excitedly opened today's door.
Hi, Santa.
Ho, ho, ho! Hello, Gordy. The toy soldier guards from my workshop have gone missing. Could you find them for me? We need them back at the workshop as soon as possible. Good luck.
Santa's voice faded away and Gordy grabbed his candy cane skis and his magical icicle ornament. He didn't know what he'd need to help him today. As Gordy made his way through the hustle and bustle of the village, he saw Santa's workshop in the center. Santa's workshop was easily the tallest building in the entire North Pole. It was built of gingerbread and was circular in shape, with a red and green glass dome ceiling. Gordy knew that this was where Santa's sleigh launched out of on Christmas Eve. As he arrived in front of the workshop, Gordy noticed that the 2 large toy soldiers were indeed not in front of the door. He saw that there were large footprint tracks. He decided to follow them. Gordy got on his skis and raced away. The large footprints eventually led him towards the outskirts of town, right where the gingerbread mines were.
Oh no, the tracks stop at the entrance to the mines.
The magical gingerbread was so warm and cozy that the surrounding snow had melted, melting away the tracks. Gordy would have to go into the mines and look for a new clue. All Gordy could hear was a distant scraping further down the mines.
How odd.
Listening carefully, Gordy followed the sound. Unsure of what might be making the sound, he slowly turned a corner and saw
The toy soldiers!
Gordy jumped with joy. He was so happy to see the 2 giant toy soldiers. But joy quickly turned to curiosity as he noticed that they both were using their hands to dig directly into the gingerbread wall, causing the mine to shake.
Be careful. Without the right tools, the mine might collapse.
But the toy soldiers ignored Gordy. It was then that he noticed that the soldiers' eyes were glowing pink. That was unusual.
We need to get you both back to Santa's workshop right now.
The sound of a mine cart rang down the mine, and soon a large steel mine cart rolled in.
Where did that come from?
A large penguin with pink goggles jumped out of the cart. The penguin seemed surprised Gordy was there.
Who are you?
Hi, I'm Gordy, and these soldiers are Santa's. I need to bring them back to him.
The penguin looked at Gordy curiously and then shook his head.
These are my soldiers, and they're gonna help me steal all this gingerbread right out from under Santa's nose.
The penguin's pink goggles were so bright Gordy could hardly see. Wait! Gordy realized the goggles had the same pink glow as the toy soldier's eyes. The penguin must be controlling the soldiers with magic. Gordy rushed over to the toy soldiers to try and shake them out of the penguin spell.
Santa needs you.
As Gordy was shaking the toy soldiers, he felt how warm they were. They were overheating. This mine would melt them if he didn't get them out of here. Gordy turned around to see the penguin shoving a bunch of the gingerbread into the mine cart.
Oh no! It's too hot! The toy soldiers will melt!
The penguin then jumped into the mine cart. He hit a lever and the mine cart sped off out of sight. The entire mine started to shake as the toy soldiers kept pounding the gingerbread walls. Gordy could see their metal starting to melt.
We gotta cool you down! That's it!
Gordy activated his icicle ornament. He could taste the minty fresh magic and he breathed out a huge ice cloud. The toy soldiers were now frozen solid. Gordy saw that their eyes turned back to their normal color. The icy shock must have broken the penguin's spell. The toy soldiers both broke free of the ice. The toy soldiers thanked Gordy and then picked him up and ran. The mine was collapsing!
Oh, candy canes!
They all jumped out of the mine door, just as it all collapsed behind them. Back at Santa's workshop, the toy soldiers were now back to their post. Gordy told Santa about the mysterious penguin who had stolen the gingerbread. Who could they be? And how did they control the toy soldiers with magic? Gordy would have to find out on another adventure. If you want to see and hear more about Gordy, check him out on YouTube. Also, tune in tomorrow for Gordy's next Magical Advent Calendar adventure. Welcome back to Gordy's Magical Advent Calendar podcast. It's December 9th, and it's time for another Christmas mission, given by Santa himself. After yesterday's runaway toy soldier rescue, Gordy knows he needs to be ready for anything. Like any good Christmas elf, Gordy loves to sing, dance, and listen to music whenever possible. So it was no wonder he was so excited about the Jingle Bell Jamboree, a fun night of playing jingle bells and hanging out with his fellow elves. Gordy was just polishing his bells when the calendar chimed and Gordy opened the small door with the number 9.
Ho, ho, ho! Hello, Gordy! There's no time to waste. You must go to the Jamboree stage and help. All the bells have come to life and won't stop dancing away. Can you save the show?
Gordy couldn't believe the bells were refusing to stay and play music. Who wouldn't want to play in the Jamboree? He rushed out of his gingerbread house and was quickly at the stage. When he opened the door, he couldn't believe his eyes.
Frosted snowflakes!
The music stage, which was usually a very simple and peaceful wooden platform, was now a loud racket of chimes. Bells were dinging around everywhere, being chased by desperate elves. Gordy watched as his friends tried and failed to contain the bells. What could have happened there? The music director elf told Gordy that it had been Tumbles, the clumsiest elf in the North Pole, who accidentally dropped a cauldron of whimsy dust from the whimsical meadow and brought all the bells to life. Now nobody could sing or play any music over the noisy bells. Gordy had never dealt with whimsy dust outside the whimsical meadow, but he had an idea on how to fix this.
Tumbles, you have to find water from the sleepy glacier. That might help calm them down.
Tumbles rushed off, wanting to prove himself after the accident. Now, Gordy had to find a way to gather the bells all in one place so they could be turned back to normal. Last time, he was able to play catch with the sleigh lanterns and talk to them. Could that work again?
Hey, Jingle Bells, come and catch me.
Gordy pretended to run and hide, but the bells didn't seem to care at all. They were happy jumping around and making super loud chimes. Gordy's plan wasn't working, and the Jamboree was fast approaching, so he needed to think on his feet. That's it! His feet! If the bells didn't want to play catch, maybe they'd like to dance with Gordy. Gordy excitedly began to tap dance, his small elf feet moving fast on the wooden floor. The bells stopped ringing and seemed to pay attention to him. Gordy tapped a little faster, and the bells were definitely watching him now. As Gordy tapped, the bells slowly began to chime along, moving as he moved. They were following his rhythm like dancers to a choreographer. The other elves watched in awe as the bells continued to move towards Gordy, chiming along like the loudest synchronized swimmers ever.
This is even more fun than the normal Jamboree. Keep coming, little bells.
Gordy tap-danced his way to an empty toy box, and using his musical feet, he was able to guide the bells into the box and close it without much effort. The other elves cheered, thanking Gordy for his help. And just in time, Tumbles walked through the door, back from the sleepy glaciers.
I found the magical water and we can turn everything back to normal.
Tumbles and the others were relieved and happy to continue with their Jamboree plans. Gordy thought he should be happy too, since he had helped and done what Santa had asked. But he had had so much fun dancing with the bells. Something just didn't feel right.
Wait! What if we don't turn them back?
The other elves were hesitant, but they trusted Gordy, so they watched on. He opened the box back up and started tap dancing again, now to the tune of Deck the Halls. The bells began to hop out of the box in a line, chiming to the song.
Come on, we can all do it! It's the dancing Jingle Bell Jamboree now!
The other elves were still a bit nervous about this change, but they could see how much fun Gordy was having, so they started to tap along. Soon, the stage was filled with happy elves tapping and even happier bells chiming in tune. Now, the dancing Jingle Bell Jamboree was more fun than ever. Gordy was so happy he could dance and sing along with his elf friends and his new bell friends. If you want to see and hear more about Gordy, check him out on YouTube. Also, tune in tomorrow for Gordy's next magical Advent calendar adventure. And don't forget to keep dancing and chiming. Welcome back to Gordy's Magical Advent Calendar podcast. It is December 10th, which means another adventure with Gordy. Yesterday, Gordy had a Jingle Bell Jamboree. Let's see what the magical Advent calendar has in store today. Gordy was tired from the big dance yesterday, so he was still in bed when he heard the familiar sound of the magical Advent calendar. Gordy hopped out of bed. He opened the door with 10 on it.
Hi, Santa!
Ho, ho, ho! Hello, Gordy! Today is a very special day. We have an elf coming from the South Pole to visit us. I need you to go and greet her at the portal. Use this magical compass to find your way. The portal is always moving around. Have fun!
As Santa's voice faded, a small silver compass shot out of the Advent calendar. Gordy caught the compass and opened it up. He saw that it was spinning wildly. Then the arrows straightened out and pointed north.
Let's go!
Gordy got into his elf uniform and was soon out the door following the compass. Gordy had never seen the portal before, but he had heard that it was the quickest way to get between the North and South Poles. He was excited to find it and to meet the South Pole elf. Suddenly, The compass started to spin. Gordy whipped around, trying to follow the arrow. He was making himself dizzy. The compass finally stopped spinning and pointed west. Gordy dizzily ran in that direction.
I hope I find that portal soon. Whoa!
Gordy stopped quickly. He was right at the edge of a giant cliff. Peering over the edge, way down, Gordy could see a red and white candy cane-colored portal.
That must be it!
Gordy didn't have time to waste, so he started to carefully climb down using his candy cane skis as hooks. About halfway down the cliff, Gordy could hear a voice coming from the portal.
Help! I'm stuck! Almost there!
Gordy made it to the bottom of the cliff and landed in the snow right next to the portal. Gordy could see an elf's hand reaching out of the portal. That must be the South Pole elf. Gordy grabbed the hand and pulled.
Hold on!
Gordy could hear the portal magic growing louder and the sound of his compass spinning. The portal must be about to move. Gordy had to hurry. Before he could do anything, the portal started to disappear. Gordy had no other choice.
I'll help you!
Gordy jumped into the portal just as it closed around him.
Whoa!
Inside the portal, it was a kaleidoscope of red and white. It was like they were in a huge crystal tunnel. Gordy saw a very tall elf before him. Rather than wearing a red and green elf uniform like Gordy, she was wearing a big winter jacket. Her jacket was stuck to the crystal wall.
Hi, I'm Gordy the elf. I'm Nori the elf, from the South Pole.
Gordy asked how they could get out of the portal, and before Nori could answer, a new portal appeared at the end of the tunnel.
We have to hurry, but I'm stuck. Not to worry.
Gordy quickly used his candy cane ski and swung it towards Nori's coat. It hooked around her coat and separated it from the wall. The portal at the end of the tunnel started to shrink.
Gumdrops, we gotta hurry!
Gordy and Nori both ran as fast as they could. They jumped and just made it through the portal. But as Gordy looked around, he saw that they weren't by the icy cliff anymore. They were on top of a giant Christmas tree.
We must be in the Christmas tree forest.
Gordy wasn't sure how they would get down. He could see the portal far beneath them as it disappeared.
I saw something move.
Gordy looked to where Nori was pointing and saw a Christmas tree shaking like an earthquake. What could be doing that? Soon, their tree started shaking too. They both held on as tightly as they could.
Do trees always do this in the North Pole? Not usually.
As they held on, Gordy saw something near the bottom of the tree. A familiar black tail. It was the Yule Cat, Gordy's friend. He must be using the tree as a scratching post again. Gordy called down and heard a loud "Help!" The Yule Cat was delighted to see Gordy and to meet Nori. He explained he had no idea they were up there. He helped them get down by offering them his paw. The two elves climbed onto the paw, and then all three went back to Santa's village. Gordy told Nori that every day in the North Pole was filled with an adventure like this, and they both laughed. If you want to see and hear more about Gordy, check him out on YouTube. Also, tune in tomorrow for Gordy's next Magical Advent Calendar adventure. Welcome back to Gordy's Magical Advent Calendar podcast. It is December 11th, which means another adventure with Gordy. Last time, Gordy made a friend from the South Pole. Let's see what the Magical Advent Calendar has in store today. Gordy had so much fun yesterday meeting Nori, the South Pole elf. He was getting ready to go out when he heard the familiar sound of the Advent Calendar buzz to life, and the 11 began to glow.
Hey, Santa.
Ho, ho, ho! Hello, Gordy. Today's special task is to show Nori around our village. I've heard she's especially excited to see our Christmas tree. Have fun!
Woohoo!
Gordy couldn't wait to go see his friend, and the Christmas tree was the one he picked out. He hoped she'd love it as much as he did. He grabbed a bit of tinsel so Nori could put it on the tree, and then he headed out towards the center of town. As Gordy approached Santa's village, he could see the big Christmas tree with its shiny star up in the distance. Nori was standing at the bottom, staring up in awe.
Hi, Gordy. This tree is awesome.
Thanks, Nori. My favorite part has always been the star. Look at it shine.
As they both looked up at the star in wonder, Gordy thought about how amazing it was. But then, something strange started to happen. The tree started to shake at the top. Suddenly, the penguin with the pink goggles burst out from the top of the tree, right next to the star.
Hey, what are you doing? Leave that star alone!
The penguin ignored Gordy. Suddenly, a magic beam shot from the penguin's pink goggles straight onto the yellow star. The star glowed bright pink, and with a cheeky wink, the penguin jumped on top of it.
Remember this as the day that Huey the Penguin finally won against Santa.
No!
Then he shot off, riding the shooting star, leaving a trail of pink starlight behind it.
What are we going to do?
We gotta go after it!
Gordy knew he wouldn't be fast enough on his candy cane skis, and he also had Nori with him. He didn't know what to do. Why would anyone want to steal a star and gingerbread from Santa?
Gingerbread, that's it!
Gordy let out a sharp whistle. Almost immediately, the gingerbread sleigh Gordy's mother made came barreling down the hill. Gordy and Nori hopped into the sleigh.
After that penguin!
The sleigh magically launched itself across the snow, chasing after the pink starlight. Within a few minutes, the sleigh had almost caught up to Huey, but he and the star were up in the sky. Gordy looked around for something he could use to get up there, but there was nothing but pine trees.
Oh, tinsel, we can't reach them.
We can use the tinsel!
Nori gave Gordy a confused look, but Gordy knew he had to get the penguin away from the star. It was the only way to stop the penguin's pink magic, so the star could go back to normal.
Nori, I was going to give you this to decorate the tree, but I'm going to have to use it for something else.
Gordy pulled out the tinsel he had brought for Nori. Then he gave her the magical reins, and she began to drive the sleigh through the snow.
This is awesome.
Gordy tied a knot in the tinsel, and then he began to swing it over his head like a lasso. He asked Nori to speed up, and she was more than happy to. Gordy flung the tinsel lasso like a cowboy, and it flew through the sky. It missed the penguin's foot, but snagged on the bottom of the star. Gordy tugged, and Huey looked down at him.
Ah! What are you doing?
Saving Christmas!
Gordy yoinked the tinsel lasso. The star flew towards Gordy. Huey fell off and landed on top of a pine tree.
Ouch!
As Gordy pulled the star back towards him, the pink magic flickered, then disappeared. The spell was broken!
We did it!
The North Pole is so fun.
Gordy pulled the star in, and it immediately started to fly back to where it belonged, the Christmas tree. Gordy looked back to where Huey landed and saw he was gone. They had returned the star, and Gordy showed Nori the rest of Santa's village. After Nori got to place the tinsel on the tree, of course. If you want to see and hear more about Gordy, check him out on YouTube. Also, tune in tomorrow for Gordy's next Magical Advent Calendar adventure. Welcome back to Gordy's Magical Advent Calendar podcast. It is December 12th. Which means another adventure with Gordy. Yesterday, Gordy recovered the star for the Christmas tree. Let's see what the Magical Advent Calendar has in store today. Gordy was about to go out skiing when he heard the magical sound of the Advent Calendar and saw the 12 begin to glow.
Hi, Santa!
Ho, ho, ho! Hello, Gordy! Today is the hot cocoa competition, and we would love for you to join. One of our usual elves is sick, so we need someone to fill in. The winning cocoa will be the one I drink on Christmas night. Good luck.
Sweet candy canes.
Gordy was so excited about the perfect cup of cocoa. He ran over to the cupboard and threw it open. Gordy ruffled through and found a small piece of paper. Just what he was looking for.
Here it is!
Unfolding the paper, he saw that it was the map to the Hot Cocoa Rapids. His mom always talked about the rapids, and Gordy always wanted to go. It could help him win the hot cocoa competition. Gordy quickly grabbed his thermos and his candy cane skis, and he was off. Gordy raced down the snowy slopes, following the map.
I've got to be getting close to the rapids.
The icy ground beneath him was starting to turn to slush, and Gordy saw steam up ahead, but he couldn't stop in time.
Whoa!
Gordy slid along wildly, completely out of control. Up ahead, he could see that the steam was coming from the hot cocoa rapids. It was melting the snow!
Gotta brake!
Gordy tried to stop from sliding by crossing his skis, but was instead launched into the air. Gordy landed in the rapids with a big splash. The cocoa tasted amazing. It was easily the best hot cocoa Gordy ever had. The water bubbled around him like a hot tub, and it was very warm. He couldn't stay in here for too long, so he swam to the side and pulled himself out of the rapids.
Now, I just need to collect a little bit for the cocoa competition.
Gordy grabbed out his thermos and crouched next to the river. He carefully put the thermos into the rapids and got just the right amount of cocoa in there. Satisfied, he screwed the lid back on.
Woohoo!
But as Gordy celebrated, the snow under him started to melt and his foot slipped. Gordy's hands flew into the air, accidentally sending the thermos flying straight into the rapids.
My cocoa!
The thermos floated downstream. Gordy needed to get it back, but knew the rapids would be too hot to swim in for long. What could he do? Gordy looked around and saw his candy cane skis and a candy cane tree nearby.
Candy canes! That'll do it!
Gordy used candy canes from the tree and his skis and bound them together to create a candy cane river raft. He plopped it in the water and then jumped on. The raft shot forward and Gordy tried to hold on. Up ahead, Gordy could see his thermos bobbing along, but it was heading straight towards a hot cocoa waterfall. Gordy used his hands to paddle the raft quicker. Soon he caught up and grabbed his thermos. But now, the raft was heading straight for the waterfall's edge. Gordy looked down at his raft. The bottom candy canes were slowly melting in the hot cocoa. He had an idea! Gordy was able to use the melted bits of candy cane to bend the raft. He pulled his candy cane skis from it and started to use them as oars. Gordy tried to steer himself towards the snowbanks rather than over the waterfall. But as Gordy steered himself towards the snowbanks, the bottom of the raft melted through fully, and cocoa was splashing up. He was almost at the waterfall. He'd have to abandon ship. Gordy tucked the thermos away, grabbed both his candy cane skis, and used all his might to jump. Gordy's candy canes hooked into the ground, and Gordy pulled himself up out of the rapids. The melting raft flew down the waterfall, disappearing in a chocolatey mist. After that river adventure, Gordy made his way back to the North Pole, just in time for the competition. He added some of his melted candy canes to his cocoa and gave it a big shake. Then he brought his thermos to the center of town, where Mrs. Claus was judging the hot cocoa. Mrs. Claus took a sip from Gordy's thermos, then smiled widely.
This cocoa tastes like adventure, and is that candy cane? I love it. I think we have a winner.
All the elves cheered, and Gordy was happy Santa himself would be drinking the cocoa he brought. If you want to see and hear more about Gordy, check him out on YouTube. Also, tune in tomorrow for Gordy's next magical Advent calendar adventure.